If you need a little extra boost of motivation to not just get movement in, but to actually remember to get movement in, then this episode is for you because we're going to be talking about four different visual cues that you can set up right away that will help remind you to get more movement in throughout the day. Because if we don't remember, then we're not going to stick to our goals. So, this is an episode that is going to help with that. So, let's get to it.
Are you ready to stop the chaos, the stress, the overwhelm that's filling your life? I'm Renae Matt, and together you and I are going to build simple routines that are going to change your life. When you put these habits into practice, you're going to be able to organize your life in a way where you can be there for your family, pay off your debt, save money, your house can stay organized, you don't have to stress about what's for dinner, and you still get time for yourself. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to the Routine Advantage Podcast.
I think this is a very needed episode because so often we have the best of intentions, but when our day gets so incredibly busy and we're being pulled in all different directions, it's almost like grasping at straws, just trying to keep up. And even though we have these really good goals of getting movement in and getting exercise, a lot of times things just get so busy that it just passes us by without even thinking about it. And then you get to the end of the night and it's like, oh, shoot, like I didn't do that. I forgot to get any movement in, or I forgot to get up and walk around when I was working at the desk all day because I was just in it and I was so focused that I totally spaced that I have been sitting here staring at a screen for 4 hours. So there's things that we need to do intentionally that will help keep us not only motivated to keep up with our goals, but also to remind us to actually do it when it's time because sometimes we need those extra visual cues. It's kind of like when you are growing up, if your mom ever put like a chart. I remember my mom doing this when we were learning how to clean a room and how to clean it consistently. She actually created these little like um charts that I'm trying to think of the word that she laminated. Wow, my brain's not working. She laminated them, but they were these little like picture charts that showed you what to do, and it was almost like a checklist. So there were some that were, how to get ready for the day, and she had little visual pictures of brushing your teeth and getting dressed and all of these different steps that you had to do as you were getting ready for the day. And then when we were learning how to clean certain rooms, it was a little visual checklist of what to do in each order. And then she had them like plugged into the room somewhere. So if we were learning how to clean the bathroom, she had it within the like vanity. And it was just a little card that was a laminated card to tuck in, and we could mark it off as we were going through the steps to learn how to clean the room. And eventually, you don't need those anymore. You don't need the visual cues anymore. It just becomes automatic because you've done it and repeated it so many times. And that's kind of the case with things like this when we're putting routines into place. When you are getting started, you do probably have to write it down and create more of a plan because you need to know and be reminded of what you're trying to do and in what order and what time you're trying to do it, all those things. You need more of that solid plan written down so that you can refer back to it when you're kind of getting a little bit scattered or lost. The nice thing though is that when you repeat this over and over and over, eventually it does just become automatic because you have repeated it so many times. So if you need these visual reminders right away while you're trying to build this movement routine in, that's totally okay. It's very, very normal. And once you have repeated this so many times, you might find that you don't need these visual reminders anymore unless you're kind of like me, where you have a little bit of an ADHD brain. And these are still very helpful no matter how long you've been doing it. You can be doing it for years, and these are still very helpful to have. So it just totally depends on how your brain works, how busy you are, how distracted you get, all the things. But these will hopefully help you. So we're going to go right into them. The first visual reminder to help you get more movement is your clothes. This is where you set out your clothes the night before, the morning of, whatever works best for you. I would highly recommend the night before, especially if you try to work out in the mornings, because even if you get up and you're busy and you just start going through your day, if you have already set out your workout clothes, then as you are going to get ready, It cues your brain that it's like, "Oh, these are my workout clothes. Either I work out now or I put them in my bag and I work out in the gym after work," whatever your schedule looks like. But having them set out the night before will remind you the next day without having to remember, because there are so many things that are probably floating around in your brain that you're trying to remember what you had to do that day. So having them set out the night before allows you to just get up and have that visual trigger to make sure that you remember to actually work out. It kind of works the same with like your workout equipment. If you are used to working out at home and you're doing home workouts in your living room, say, or even in the basement, wherever you're doing them, if you move some of that equipment, don't put it away right away. Like, it might feel a little more cluttered and everything, but when you are getting used to a routine, we want to have those things out and visual to remind us to do it. So, though that might be something that is helpful as well, is to leave some dumbbells or some bands out or something like that where you can see it. So when you're walking into that space, it automatically reminds you because you are seeing it and it's like, okay, I need to get my workout in because it's not tucked away and out of sight, out of mind. So we want to make sure that we are having that visual reminder, whether it's your clothes, your workout shoes, your equipment, anything like that. We want to have it set out at least while we're getting used to doing this. And then once we're used to doing it, we can tuck those things away so it doesn't feel so cluttered. But this is a good way to remind you visually. The second visual reminder you can do is to make sure it is on your calendar, because we need to not only see it on our calendar so we know it's coming up, but by scheduling it into our calendar, we're also making sure that we are blocking that time out and making sure that we have the time to do it. Because if we have an hour blocked off and there's nothing else overlapping on that, we know that we have a full hour that we can use towards working out, whether that means going to the gym, going for a walk, going and having a bike, going on a bike ride, whatever you're planning on doing, we have that time blocked off. Now, if you're really busy that day and things are kind of back to back to back, and you can only slide in a 30-minute block to work out, then your workout is probably going to look a little bit different, but you don't have to skip your workout. You just adjust and change up what you're doing. And same with the timing. If the time of day doesn't work out on your schedule when you're looking at it, just drag it to another time of day that is going to work a little bit better. This is where we have to have that flexibility come in, but we're not going to pay attention to that until we have it visually in our calendars. Because if we're looking at the day and if we don't have it in our calendar, we're going to see a really busy day and we're just going to go into the busyness without prioritizing the movement. When we're really busy, the movement is what helps to release that stress. So it's a really good idea to actually work out when you are busy and stressed. So when we are looking at our day and we didn't plug in that workout time, then we're just going to skip it because we feel too busy to prioritize it. However, if we have it on our calendar, all we have to do is look at where it would work better to do it. So maybe if you're used to an evening workout, it's not going to work because you have commitments. But if you slide it and you maybe do it at lunch and just do a short one at lunch, or you slide it to the morning and you get a walk around your neighborhood in your during your morning routine instead, and that's the movement you get that day, then that's okay. Maybe it's doing a 15-minute walk when you are taking your afternoon break from work and you just need to get away from your desk, or you need to get away from, wherever you're working, and you just take a 15-minute walk to get some movement in throughout the day. So it's things like that where if it's in your calendar, then you can actually move it around and prioritize it without just skipping it altogether. So having it visually in your calendar is very important. The third visual reminder you can do is an actual alarm in your phone. Now, I hate hearing alarms, but I love utilizing alarms and timers in my phone because it helps me to stay on track. I love being able to set a timer and then, like, literally set it and forget it. Because if we are trying to do a lot of things and we're trying to make deadlines, meet appointments, remember meetings, things like that, if we're constantly thinking about those things, it distracts us from what we're currently doing. So if we can set up alarms or reminders, then we can set that and we can literally step away and then really focus on the task at hand and not have to worry about trying to remember to be on time for these other things. So I love setting alarms. Now, one thing that I do is to set a recurring alarm on my phone for things that I know are going to be at the same time. So my family and I, we do uh, a check-in basically on Fridays that we're checking in with each other on our own health goals. So everybody's making their own personal goals, but this is a meeting that is recurring on Fridays. And so what I have on my phone is a recurring alarm that is set to remind me to log into that meeting so that I don't forget and I'm on time for the meeting. So one of the things that you can do with that is when you are setting an alarm, you can choose if you want sound or if you want it silent. And if it's going to be a silent alarm, just so I don't accidentally use that alarm for something else, I will put in caps in the title because you can name your alarms. I'll put in caps silent and then a little dash and then actually name what it's for. So I don't accidentally use that alarm for something that actually needs sound. So I'll just put silent and then family check-in. And I set it as a recurring alarm for Fridays at a certain time in the evening. So when I am going through my day, it will pop up on my phone without actually making noise because I have that alarm set to silent. Now, there are others where it would be nice to have a timer set, and that is the case when I'm doing other things like meetings and things like that. But if you need a timer set for a movement routine, if you want to have a workout at a certain time, if you are going to maybe a local workout class, that would be a good time to set a recurring reminder to get you thinking about going or to remind you to, get out the door at that time. But what you're doing is you're just setting these alarms and you can make it silent or an actual sound and just set it as a recurring or just set it up in there. And then when you are getting up in the morning and you're looking at your day, set those alarms that day for whatever you need to set that day. So you might have no alarms that day, you might have 12 alarms that day. It just depends on what your day looks like and what you want to set alarms for. But if you are trying to remember to get outside or go for that walk or get up from your desk or get that workout in at a certain time, setting these alarms might help you a ton because then you can really still focus on what you're doing, but you're not going to forget to actually work out because that alarm is going to trigger you and remind you to get up and do that movement of whatever you're trying to do. Now, the fourth visual reminder is like going old school and doing post it reminders to help you remember to habit stack your movement. So, what I mean by this is literally just doing these little visual reminders of writing it on a post it note to remind you what to do. So, this might be putting a post it in your bathroom to remind you to do 10 squats when you're brushing your teeth. Or putting a little post it by your coffee maker that says to walk around the block once you get your coffee brewing. So it's things like that. Maybe it is, in front of your sink in the kitchen and you can just remind yourself to walk in place as you're washing your dishes. It's just giving you these little visual reminders, sticking it somewhere. Maybe it's on your computer to remind you to get up and set your timer every 2 hours or set your alarm. Whether it's your alarm or your timer, it doesn't really matter. You can choose whatever works best for you, but maybe setting that post it up at your computer is a reminder to set your timer or your alarm to get up every 1 hour or every 2 hours and do some squats or do some jumping jacks or walk around a little bit. So these little post it reminders are helping you to habit stack, which means that it's something that you are already doing that you want to pair something else with. So when I mentioned, when you're brushing your teeth to do squats, because you're already going to be brushing your teeth, that is a habit that you repeat over and over. You do it without thinking about it. You can just walk into the bathroom in the morning when you get out of bed and you go to the bathroom and immediately go to start brushing your teeth without thinking about it because you have repeated it so many times. So when we compare something with it, it just helps make it so that it becomes easier to do without having to take the brain power to think about doing it. So when you go into the bathroom to brush your teeth and you're brushing, you can just start doing squats. And that little post-it is just going to remind you until it becomes a habit. When you are, brewing your coffee, maybe you are walking in place, maybe you're pacing the floor and trying to get some steps in, maybe you are getting outside and checking on the flowers or the birds, or getting a walk around the block quick while your coffee is brewing. It's just setting up a reminder to do something different while you're pairing it with something that you are already doing that has already become a habit, and we're trying to include another habit with it. So you can use this however you want, whatever works best, but this might be a good way to have that little visual reminder until it becomes a habit, and then you can get rid of the post it. So I hope these were helpful for you and that it gave you some ideas to kind of think about what visual reminders that you could set in place to help remind you to get more movement in and to remember to get that movement in throughout the day. So there are tons of different things we can do. And if you have anything that you'd like to share that you do, I would love for you to come and join us in our free community. It's at facebook.com/groups/ the routine advantage community. And you can find that link and more in our show notes. Everything that you can possibly need is in our show notes, and all the links are there. And I will quickly recap those 4 visual reminders to help you get more movement in your day if you want to jot them down real quick. So, number 1 is clothes and equipment. Set out your workout clothes, your workout shoes, your workout equipment, anything you need. Set it out the night before where you can visually see it until it becomes habit, and then you can tuck it away. The second one is your calendar, to make sure you are actually scheduling it and then reviewing that schedule and making sure to have some flexibility to move it around if you need to adjust it if you need to, instead of skipping it altogether. The third visual reminder is your alarm or a timer, to set a recurring alarm on your phone or a one time. You can make them silent. I would highly, highly suggest that you name them if you're doing an alarm, because then you aren't just going to have this random alarm and wonder what I set this for, but it will actually remind you and tell you what you need to do next. And then another good practice with this, if you're going to be doing the alarms and the timers, is to look at your day in the beginning of the day. Maybe it's part of your morning routine, but to look at your day and set any timers or alarms that you want throughout the day so that you can set it and remind you, and you don't have to think about it anymore. And you can really focus and be very present with what you're doing at the time, knowing that that alarm will go off when it's time. And then the fourth visual reminder is post-it notes for habit stacking, to give yourself a little post-it note on something that you're already doing or using to remind you to get some other type of movement in while you're doing something you're already used to doing. So it might be squats when brushing your teeth, it might be walking around the block as your coffee is brewing, or even walking in place as you're washing dishes, or to get up and move every hour when you are sitting at your screen. Anything that works for you, just put a little post it reminder up to have that little visual cue when you need it. So I hope you take at least one of these and try it and get that movement more consistent throughout your week, because when we can be more consistent, even if it's not perfect, you are going to feel so much better and you're going to start craving that movement. If you need help building your movement routine or any of the other 5 foundational routines, I do have a workbook right now at yourorganizedlifeblueprint.com, where you can get a PDF download version, or you can actually order the physical version through an Amazon link. So that is available. And I also have one-on-one coaching sessions available as well. And all the information for both of those can be found at that link, yourorganizedlifeblueprint.com, or in the show notes. So that is all I have for you today. I will catch you back here on the next episode.
Did you love that episode or learn something useful? If so, would you do me a huge favor? My goal is to grow this podcast and help as many women as I can break free from the overwhelm so they can truly enjoy their life. The best way for me to do this is for you to leave a 5-star written review on your podcast app and to share this episode with a friend or in your Instagram stories. I appreciate you being here. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care.